Hi, this is Bible Bites with Pastor Dan, where we're reading through the Bible one small bite at a time. I'd encourage you to check out our previous video where we looked at Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Today we're going to pick up with verses 13 and we'll read to the end of the chapter. So previously, what we saw was that the wise men from the east, who were astrologers, came to find the Messiah, this anointed one of God. They understood that this anointed one was coming because of some astronomical or astrological event, and so they were seeking him. Herod the Great, who was ruler of Judea, also was seeking for this Messiah, this anointed one, who was called the King of the Jews. Because Herod felt like this threatened his rulership. Okay, so that being said, let's dive right in. It's on the screen so you can read with me. After they had gone, that refers to the wise men, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to look for the child to kill him." Quite simply, God warned Joseph, Mary, and Jesus that Herod was going to kill Jesus, and so Joseph was to take his family, go into the country of Egypt to avoid the danger. Then he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and went to Egypt. He stayed there until Herod died. In this way, what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet was fulfilled. "I called my son out of Egypt." Now, that is a prophecy that you can still read today. It's found in the Old Testament book of Hosea 11:1. And again, it was a prophecy written hundreds of years before Jesus. And certainly even more years than that from when Matthew is writing this. We don't know how long Joseph, Mary, and Jesus were in Egypt. Some believe it was only a couple months. Others conjecture that it could have been up to 2 years. Now, I'm picking up in verse 16 here, it says, "When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he became enraged. He sent men to kill all the children in Bethlehem and throughout the surrounding region, from the age of 2 and under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men." So what we had previously read is that God warned the wise men not to divulge information to Herod, and so they also really fled, went back home by a different route, avoiding Herod altogether. Herod found out that they did not come back and divulge the information of where this Messiah, where this anointed one was. Herod was incredibly angry, and so he took matters in his own hand, and in an act of rage he had all the children in Bethlehem and the surrounding regions, aged 2 and under, he had them slaughtered. Verse 17 states, "Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud wailing, Rachel weeping for her children, and she did not want to be comforted because they were gone." You could imagine the sorrow, the pain of parents watching their children or their youngest maybe, but the slaughter of 2 and under. Now, this prophecy you can still find today in Jeremiah and Jeremiah 31:15. You have to understand a little bit about Israel and some of its history to really understand this prophecy. For instance, Rachel was actually the wife of Israel, the man Israel, who was the father of the 12 sons who would become 12 tribes of Israel. So that's what it means when it states the word Rachel there. So what a sorrow, what a slaughter. It's amazing that what Herod did. It certainly shows his character, and he was known to be a very violent man. Let's pick up at verse 19. It says, after Herod had died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, get up, take the child and his mother, go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead. So we already really talked about this, that there was that dream. Joseph felt safe to come back then to Israel. God wanted his Messiah, the King of the Jews, to be in Israel. And so when Joseph heard, or when he heard that Archelaus, who was the son of Herod the Great, Herod the Great is another name for Herod, who was the ruler of Judea that killed all those infants and children under the age of 2. So when Joseph heard that Archelaus, the son of Herod, was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Remember, Judea is just a region in southern Israel. And after being warned in a dream, he went to the region of Galilee. So instead of going to southern Israel, he actually went to a region in northern Israel called Galilee. And he came to a town called Nazareth and lived there. And then what had been spoken by the prophet was fulfilled, that Jesus would be called a Nazarene. When we continue to read through the Gospels, we find out that people believed or were of the opinion that Jesus was born in Nazareth, but he wasn't. As we saw, he was actually born in Bethlehem, but he was called a Nazarene. Nazareth was a village that probably did not have a super great reputation. I often think of it as perhaps a redneck village. So it's kind of way out in the countryside. I believe it was probably just in the countryside out in the region of Galilee. So that concludes Matthew chapter 2. Next week we will pick up with Matthew 3 and read a little bit in that chapter. See you next week.